Alright, so we're going to do questions 31 through 45. This one. We start out with writing, solving, or graphing linear equations, and it says using various methods, so who knows, we'll see what we get. So it says Erica went shopping for new clothes for school. She bought a pair of jeans for $70.19 and several shirts for $8.63 each. X represents the shirts she bought. Which of the following equations should be used to find Y, the total cost? Okay, so I look at this and I always read linear equations the same way. There's always going to be something that you pay for once and something that you pay for multiple times. The thing that you pay for multiple times is the thing that you put the variable next to. So we know it's going to be Y equals because Y is the total. So actually right away we could eliminate A and D because it says Y is the total. So Y is going to be by itself. Alright, so what do I pay for once? Well, she bought a single pair of jeans. And then she bought several shirts. So the jeans are the item that gets paid for one time, and this one is the one that gets paid for multiple times, and it even tells you X is the shirts. So what we're really saying is to calculate the total, we would take the shirts dollar cost times the number of shirts, and then we would also have to add in that price we paid for the pair of jeans. So it's $8.63 that gets the variable. Your answer is C. Alright, number 32, Leanne traveling at an average speed of 49 miles per hour, and after 4 hours Bart leaves town. Okay, you guys have seen this type of problem on the Keystone, or on the Study Island work that we've done, so let's see what we got here again. So she's leaving town, traveling at an average speed of 49 miles per hour. After 4 hours, Bart leaves town in the same direction at an average speed of 67 miles per hour. So if you read that right, you know Bart is going to catch up to her eventually because he's driving faster than she is. The question is probably going to ask us, how long is it going to take to do it, or somehow write an equation that represents how long it would take. So let's see what we can figure out here. Okay, first thing is that she's going 49 miles per hour, and she's done that for 4 hours before Bart even leaves. So already, if Bart is here, Leanne is going to be way over here, and because she's 4 hours ahead of him, driving 49 miles each time. So 49 times 4 is 196 miles. So before Bart even leaves, Leanne's already 196 miles ahead. But you got to think about it this way, right? Bart is going to gain on her though. So every hour that happens after that, Bart's going to get closer and closer until eventually he matches up with her. So it tells you right here that X is the time Bart travels and Y is the distance between Leanne and Bart. So we know it's going to be a Y equals 1, and you can see all the answers are set up as Y equals. So the thing is you know that every hour that distance is going to decrease. The question is by how much. So if you think about it, you're going to start with 196 miles of separation, but you're going to lose some of that separation each hour. So right away I think it eliminates B because we're not gaining anything. Alright, so how much do we actually lose? Well, Bart is going 67, but Leanne's still going 49. So every time Bart goes for an hour, every time an hour happens, Leanne travels 49 miles, but Bart goes 67. So he goes 18 miles more than she does. In other words, he decreases that gap between each of them by 18 miles every hour. So how do we represent 18 per hour if X is the hours? 18X. So our answer is D. That's one of the tougher ones that they ask you to figure out, and that seems to be a pretty common practice question because we've seen that any number of times. So just to give you an idea, I would guess that that's probably going to be a Keystone question because it seems like it's so common that it would hard to be believable that it wouldn't be a Keystone question. So let's look at number 33 and we'll see if we have something similar or if it's a little bit more like 31. This company has a fixed operating cost of $21.37 per month with a production cost of $15.15 per unit. Okay, so it says that each unit brings in $33.09 in revenue. Which of the following equations represents the profit for the month? Okay, X is the number of units made and Y is the total profit. So here again will be Y equals something, which again all of our answers have that. Alright, so what do we know? Basically, the amount, we talked about it before in the other video, that profit is revenue minus cost. So what kind of revenue do we get? We get $33.09 per item. Okay, but we also know that each item costs us $15.15 per item. So really, per item, our profit, we can work on that alone. Our profit would be $33.09 minus $15.15. Let's take a calculator and work that one out real quick. 33.09 minus 15.15 is $17.94. So each item makes $17.94 in profit. But we have to consider that there was also an operating cost every month of $21.37. So really what we're looking at is that we know that our revenue, our actual profit coming in is $17.94 per item. But we still have to take off the cost of the whole thing, which is the $21.37. So you don't actually make any profit until you get this total right here to be more than $21.37. So they have to sell however many items that is, but this is the equation to work it out, right? So the profit would be $17.94 per item, right? But we still have to subtract off that initial operating cost. Once we do that, once Y becomes a positive number, so when X gets big enough that Y is a positive number, then you actually start making real profit. So this equation is D. But you could take that a step further if you really wanted to, maybe as an open-ended question, and say, well, what does it take to actually make a profit? And you want to know how many items it is, so you would solve this for X. But this doesn't ask us to do that, so we're not going to worry about that at this stage. Alright, let's look at number 34. All linear equation format. It says Ann is moving from Houston to McKinney and rented a truck from U-Move Truck Rentals. The cost of one-day truck rental is given by this. So we have a linear equation that represents the cost. Remember, this is function notation, so this is the cost based on M, the number of miles driven. So right here is where it says that. So our cost based on the miles driven is 0.5 per mile plus 50. So I read this as probably 50 cents per mile plus $50. So if Ann drives 280 miles, what's the cost of the truck rental? Okay, this is asking you to substitute. So you're taking the 280 miles and putting it where the M is. So sometimes in function notation it's written as the cost of 280 miles, or cost based on 280 miles, written like that. But ultimately, you're just putting the 280 in for M and calculating. 140 plus 50, $190. B is your answer. Okay, so we have, again, the next step in this is solving for X. This one looks like a pretty standard equation solving problem. It involves maybe a little bit of distributing if you want to do it that way, or several other ways you could do this. So let's rewrite it here, and then we'll work this out. Okay, so I distribute the 7 to the 2x and to the negative 8. It's going to be 14x minus 56 equals 77x. My first thought is to get the x on both sides, so I subtract the 14x away from this side to cancel that and leave me with negative 56 equals 77 minus 14 is 63x. And so I would take this and then divide by 63 on both sides. So I'm going to get a negative value, and it looks like this one reduces. Actually, 7 goes into both of them. So 7 goes into 56 8 times, and into 63 9 times. So your answer is negative 8 over 9. Okay, we go to number 36. It's talking about Juan scoring 24 points in the first half of a basketball game. and he scored P points in the second half of the game. Write expression to determine the number of points he scored in all. Then find the number of points he scored if in all he scored 11 points in the second half of the game. Okay, well think about it, right? What would you do to figure out how many total points he scored? You might add what he scored in the first half and add what he scored in the second. So we know he scored 24 in the first half, and we would add what he scored in the second. So the expression is 24 plus P. That's the only one of these anyway, so we already know our answer is A. But just to prove a point, if he scored 11 points in the second half, you guys could figure that out. Plus 11, he'd be 35 points for the game. That seems sort of strangely easy compared to some of the other ones. Alright, what do we got with number 37? It says, write an equation that describes the line with slope 2 and y-intercept 3/2 in slope-intercept form. Well, that's kind of fun because, I mean, to write a slope-intercept form of an equation, it's y equals mx plus b, and you need a slope for m and a y-intercept for b. So, I mean, they actually told it to you directly. The slope is 2 and the y-intercept is 3/2. It's C. Number 38 says, write the equation that describes the line in slope-intercept form, so the same kind of thing. But they give you the slope, and they tell you that point 3, -2 is on the line. So in this problem, we would know that m is 4, but we still need a y-intercept. We don't have that yet. So there's a couple ways you could go about this problem. If you notice, each one has a 4 next to the x, so we're not going to be able to sort of get away with eliminating any answers by knowing the slope goes next to the x. But what you could do is take these equations and substitute in 3 for x and -2 for y, and see which one of these gives you an answer that matches up on each side. For example, if we put this one in here, we would be saying -2 equals 4 times 3 plus 14. Well, think about it. -2 is equal to 12 plus 14. We know that's not true. It's not A. Actually, I think it's going to be B. -2 equals 4 times 3 plus 14. -2 equals 12. Sorry, minus 14. Minus 14. That one works. The answer is going to be B. But you could also do it like this if you want to see the algebraic way. So that's like a trial and error way. Let's do the algebraic way. If we use this, right, we have an example x and y given to us. So we could write the generic equation, but instead of a y, we could put -2, we could put 4 in for m, and put 3 in for x, and then figure out what b is. So this is -2 equals 12 plus b, and if we subtract 12, we get -14 for b. So it would be a way to find our y-intercept is -14. So if you happen to not have multiple choice or whatever, this is certainly a way you could go about doing it. But the answer to this is B. Okay, number 39 says the water level of a river is 34 feet and it's receding at a rate of 5.5 feet per day. Receding means going down. So it's losing 0.5 foot per day. Write an equation that represents the water level, W, after D days, and how many days will the water level be 26 feet? Okay, well, we got to look at it right away, right? The water level is the total, so W equals. Alright, we're starting with 34 feet, right? And we're losing 0.5 feet per day. So I see -0.5 D, right? -0.5 per day. And we started with 34, so we'd have a positive 34, but we're losing some every day. So this is going to be our expression. The only question is then what's the answer to it? Will it be 26 feet? Well, as you can see over here, right, we actually already know our answer is B. But let's just say, in case, let's work it out. See, like if we read through the other ones, this one says you have 34 feet per day. That doesn't make any sense. So does this one. This one says you're losing 0.5 feet per day, which is good, but it says you started at -34 feet. That doesn't make any sense either. So you can kind of narrow these down right away. But just to show you how you would work it out to figure out it's 16 days, well, if you want the water level to be 26 feet, you put a 26 where the W is and solve this for D. So you'd subtract the 34 from both sides. And you get 8 equals negative 0.5d, and then you would divide by negative 0.5 on both sides, and you'd get d equals positive 16. So that's how you'd work it out if you needed to solve it, but in this case, if you know how to write the equation, you probably don't even have to worry about solving it out, because there's only one option that makes any sense anyway. Okay, let's look at what we have next. This is what I thought we might get to. We have systems of equations now. So systems of equation is 2 equations instead of 1. So this one says solve the system by graphing. So they gave you graphs down here and they tell you what the coordinates are for each answer. And I would say, well, yeah, you could solve it by graphing, but why? I would never solve this thing graphing. If it were me, I would do elimination because I see the x's, y's, and numbers lined up together. The only thing is these 4's don't cancel. I'm going to multiply this bottom one by negative 1. That'll make 2x minus 4y and positive 16. The reason why I do that is now I can combine them together, the top one and the bottom one. I'm going to combine them together. 3x plus 2x is 5x. The 4y's cancel, and it'll be negative 36 and 16. That's equal to negative 20. My x is negative 4. So knowing that, I eliminate A and I eliminate C. So it's either B or D at this point. So I take my answer for x and I go back to either equation. I'll just go to the top one. 3 times negative 4 plus 4y equals negative 36. So this is negative 12 plus 4y equals negative 36. If I add the 12, I get 4y equals negative 24, y equals negative 6. Like that. So I need negative 4, negative 6 as my answer. My answer is B. So graphing it, I think when it's written like this, it's pretty hard to sit and graph. You'd have to rearrange it or something to figure out which one is x and y, or do the intercept method or whatever. But I think it's so much easier to do it algebraically. Number 41 says, solve this using substitution and express as an ordered pair. See, once again, I don't see why you would do this using substitution. You could, it's not a big deal, but I think it might actually be easier to do elimination. But I don't know, let's say, since we did elimination for number 40, let's look at number 41 and we'll try to solve it via substitution. Okay, well the first thing I would say is I need a variable by itself. So I would look at this bottom equation and say, if I just add the 2y to both sides, I would cancel that out and I get x equals 2y plus 12. And that would give me an equation that I could substitute. So I'll take this 2y plus 12 and I'll bring it back up to the top equation and put it in where the x is. So I'm going to rewrite that equation exactly, except I'm going to take the x out and put 2y plus 12 in parentheses. So this is now 8y plus 48 minus 4y equals negative 16. So I combine like terms, I get 4y plus 48 equals negative 16. I subtract the 48 away and I get 4y equals negative 64. I think, yep, negative 64. And then I divide by 4. Something looks to me like I made a mistake there. Let me see if I did. Oh, I did. Look, all the way back in the very beginning I made a little mistake and it made a big difference. When I rewrote this equation here, it should be a minus 12. See how careful you guys gotta be. Minus 12. So when we do that, this is actually going to be negative 48 in here. So when I go back and I do all of this, I'm going to you know what, I'm going to redo all of this for you guys, sorry. So right here, when I did this rearranging, I added the 2y to both sides, and now I'm going to have a minus 12, 2y minus 12. So I put, instead of the x, I put 2y minus 12 minus 4y equals negative 16. And when I distribute, I get 8y minus 48 minus 4y equals negative 16.
And Taylor Keys to guidance.
So then I combine like terms, and I have 4y minus 48 equals negative 16. And I would add 48 to both sides, and I get 4y equals 32, and so y equals 8. So it looks like, just having done that, I know that the only one that has a y equals 8 is D. But just in case, I go back to this equation I solved for x, and I'd say, well, x equals 2 times y, but y is 8 now, minus 12. X equals 16 minus 12, which is 4. So substitution works pretty well there too. Personally, I probably would have done it by elimination, but this way you get to see both techniques. So number 42 asks us to do this one by elimination, and they actually set it up perfectly for us. We can see x's, y's, and numbers lined up, and the negative 6 and positive 6 would cancel right away, so we don't even have to change these. We can just combine them top to bottom. 3x plus 2x is 5x. These cancel, and 12 plus negative 12 is 0. So if we divide, x is 0. So again, if we look at our answers here, right, the only one that's possible is C. Just in case, though, if you go back to either equation, I'll choose the bottom one this time. 2 times 0 plus 6y equals negative 12. So basically what I'm saying is 6y equals negative 12, y equals negative 2. Yep, so our answer is 0, negative 2. They made it pretty easy on you that time for an elimination. Alright, so then we get to 43 through 45, which I'm guessing are the hardest ones. They're going to make us write equations for both of them. So now instead of writing one equation, we're writing two. So it says, Fun Guys Game Rental Store charges a fee of $5 plus $5.50 per game. A different store charges $17 plus $2.50 per game. So right away I see two equations, right? For y equals 550 x plus 5, so we can call y the total and x the games. So then the other one would be the total is $2.50 per game, but it's $17 fee. So it wants to know, for how many game rentals will the cost be the same? What does that cost? Okay, well, what we're saying is if y is this and y is this, we want to know is when do these two things equal each other? Well, what I would suggest is take this one and stick it where the y is in the other one. It would be 250x plus 17 equals 550x plus 5. You can solve this however you like. I would take the negative, I would take 250x away from both sides, and I'd probably subtract the 5 from both sides also. So what I get is 12 equals 3x, so x equals 4. So we have our answer already is going to be C. But just in case, if you want to know why it's $27, take the 4 and put it back into either equation for x. So we would do y equals 5.50 times 4 plus 5, and you would get 27. But again, as you can see, if you can solve it, the first part of it, it looks like you don't even have to solve the other part most of the time, because the only answer that makes sense is the one with this 4 games. Okay, let's go to number 44. It says Janice is going on vacation and needs to leave her dog at a kennel. Wynn's Kennel is $15 per day plus $20 processing fee. Pup Palace Kennel charges $12 per day but has a $35 processing fee. For how many days is the Pup Palace Kennel cheaper than Wynn's Kennel? So again, like we can say that y is the total charge and that x is the days in the kennel. So we can start it out like that. So we got two equations, right? But if we think about it, look at what the answers are. The answers never really talk about what the equation is or whatever. They just want you to understand what's happening between the two. So if you think about it now, right? Lynn's Kennel is $15 per day, so you would think, well, why would I go there? I should go to the other place that's only $12 per day. But the fee that you charge makes a difference here, right? Because think about it, if you only did it for one day, Lynn's Kennel would be $15 because it's only one day, and a $20 processing fee. That's $35 total, right, for a day. But the Pup Palace, which is only $12 per day, so you only get to pay $12 there, but you have to pay a $35 fee. So the first place charges you $35 for one day, the second place charges you $47 for that same one day. So if you think about it, the first place is way cheaper. Lynn's Kennel is way cheaper, at least for a short time period, right? Do you understand that eventually it would be cheaper to stay at the Pup Palace, so to speak, but not right away. So let's look at part A. It says the Pup Palace Kennel is always cheaper than Wynn's. Well, we just determined that that's not true, right? Because for one day even, Wynn's is cheaper than the Pup Palace, so it's not A. Let's go back to B for a minute. See, it says the Pup Palace Kennel is cheaper than Wynn's after 15 days. Maybe, we'll look at that. The Pup Palace Kennel is cheaper than Wynn's after 5 days. Okay, so we might actually have to work something out here. But I think we can agree that B is not true either, right? Because eventually, because it's only $12 per day, eventually you would overcome that difference in processing fee and the Pup Palace Kennel would actually be cheaper. But it might take a while. So I think we can eliminate B. So let's just put it this way. We can calculate it out, right? The Pup Palace Kennel is cheaper than Wynn's after 15 days. So let's try 15 days. Well, the first place would be 15 times 15 plus 20. And the other one would be 12 times 15 plus 35. So you can work those out very quickly if you want. We could have written an equation for this, but this is sort of using the multiple choice to our advantage. So the first one is $245. See, I'm working this out for if it were 15 days. And the second will be 215. So at least that is true, right? C is true. So let's see if D is also true, because it would be a better answer then, because it would be cheaper after 5. But I'm thinking we're going to find out that that's not true. This is for C. Let's look at D. 15 times 5 plus 20, and 12 times 5 plus 35. So 15 times 5 plus 20 is $95. 12 times 5 plus 35 is also 95. So you can see that at this point, right, this is the turning point. So at 5 days, it's equal. But after that, this one will be cheaper. Like if we did 6 days, the Pup Palace would be cheaper than this one. So the correct answer and the best answer for this is D. Because what we're finding out is that it takes 5 days to balance out that difference in fees, and then after that it would be true, as we proved with 15, right? 15 was definitely cheaper at Pup Palace, but it turns out that actually anything after 5 would be cheaper. So the answer to this is most definitely D. Okay, last one for this one. So it says at the local pet store, zebrafish cost $2.10 each, and neon tetras $1.85 each. Martha bought 13 fish total for a cost of $25.80, not including tax, how many of each type of fish did she buy? Okay, so this is going to take a little bit of thought here. Okay, let's call X the zebra fish, and Y will be the neon fish. So one thing we know for sure is that if you add the zebra fish and the neon fish together, she bought 13 total. So it would just say take the X, the number of zebras, and the number of neons, and it has to total 13. So that's one thing we know. The other equation we know is that she paid $25.80 total. So she paid $2.10 for each zebra. We'd write that as 210X. And she paid $1.85 for each neon, $1.85Y, and that came out to a total of $25.80 when it was done. So in this case, we have our two equations that we can solve here. We just need to figure out which one of these it is. So what if we just rearrange one of these top ones to make it easy for substitution? Let's subtract the y away from both sides. We'll change this top equation into x equals negative y plus 13. So we're going to not use this anymore, and we'll use that instead. Alright, so we wrote x plus y equals 13, but I'm going to subtract the y away from both sides to make it easier to use substitution. So it's this part that I'm going to substitute in for the x in the other equation. So I'm going to write 210 and then in parentheses negative y plus 13 plus 1.85y equals 2580. So if I take 2/10 as negative 2.10y and 2.1 times 13 is 27.3 plus 1.85y equals 25.80. What a mess. Combine some like terms here. So I'm going to get negative 0.25y plus 27.3 equals 25.80. So I'm going to subtract the 27.3 from both sides, and I get negative 0.25y equals negative 1.5. And when I divide, it's going to be a positive number. 1.5 divided by 0.25 is going to be 6. So if y is 6, we know she bought 13 total, then she must have bought 6 of the y's, which are 6 neon fish, so she must have bought 7 zebra fish. So the answer is A for this one. We know she bought 6 neons, so she must have bought 7 zebra. So as you can see, the systems of equation problems can be a little bit tougher, especially when they give you decimals and things like that. They're the